Well, welcome. We're delighted you're here. You're doing lots of candidate interviews and forums and debate. This one's put by the chamber because we're just trying to get input on issues the chamber cares about. So we start off by asking you to introduce yourself, what you're running for, what ward or where you're running from, where you live, and how long you've been in Concord.
So I'm running for City Council, Ward 4. My name is Sarah Beauregard. I have lived in Concord pretty much my whole life. I've known you for since I was a little baby. I've also been in Ward 4 for the last 14 years. Love the city of Concord. It's really, I love watching it grow and expand, and I'm just hoping to be part of that more so and help my kids kind of grow and have the childhood I had. So.
That's cool. That's great. Well, as you know, we gave the folks who are going to show up on this the questions in advance, hopefully to stimulate a little thinking. We'll start right off. Economic growth, we have so much of our property that's tax exempt because we have every tax exempt organizations here because we're the state capital, and the state has large holdings here.
Yes.
So growing the tax base so that the tax rate itself, which has been very well managed by past councils and the current city administration, is really important. How do we go about that? What should we be doing?
It's a great question, and honestly, when I first read it, it was extremely overwhelming question because it's not something that is like jumps out at me. It's not something that I would normally be like, oh my gosh, how that's right. Like really companies bringing technology in, bringing medical facilities in really helps take that tax burden off of us. So with that, I mean, when the mall went under, that kind of didn't help us. It really kind of
78 million assessment to 10. That's a big haircut.
Took a lot of us, kind of brought it back on the us, I should say.
Homeowners.
Homeowners, thank you, yes. So it kind of like, it made me think like, what could we do? How could we generate? And I know that bringing in those housing units that we're talking about and bringing kind of like what Salem and Portsmouth did with bringing in retail in with the housing and kind of generating, bringing stuff in, seems like a really great idea. I don't know how well we are going to be at doing it because the cost of building is really expensive. So it's hard for me to say like how to do it. I'm just not 100% sure on how. I know the idea of doing it is great. I know that we really should look for those companies more in the technology, kind of in personal finance. And I know it's not fun to have those investment companies down on Main Street, but they are paying our tax, they are paying taxes, and bringing in stuff like that does pay for itself.
All of the above. Concord needs to be more proactive, probably.
Yes.
I think in the past, communities sat back and let them just grow organically. Now we realize there's a competition between communities to attract good businesses, good jobs. You just saw that in Merrimack, New Balance is moving in. They're building an $85 million factory. They're hiring 250 people right out of the gate. They may double that. Portsmouth has a shipyard now with over 6,000 workers. Lonza, who makes all the vaccines for different drug companies, they've got over 1,000 people there. Concord really seems to have sort of let that slip by the board. We've seen all these big businesses, Rumford Press, Sprague Electric, Hoyt Electric, Chubb, Lincoln Financial leave, and we feel it. So new ideas are probably a great thing there. Everybody talks about housing as part of that. How do we attract workers if we don't have housing? If we have the housing, will the workers come? Chicken egg thing. Everybody who runs for office at every city council goes, great, we'll increase the density that a developer's allowed, but that's only a small part of an overall development cost. Costs are high. What ideas, what thinking do you have there to get more housing of all kinds built in Concord?
So it's kind of, I'm kind of on the, like I am, so we have a landlord, I'm a landlord, and I'm kind of on that, it's difficult to build. It's difficult to find, there's such a hard process to go through to actually start your building. I know you probably have experienced that.
You preach into the choir. Yes, you are.
I mean, we're trying to put a driveway on a street that's a one-way that is already dense, like with cars parking for downtown on one of our properties, and we have to go through 9 planning committees, and the expense of it, it's almost, well, is it really worth it? But it is. It will help the city. It'll get another car off the street. It just will help. But the process to do it is very difficult. And so to bring the housing, I'm not sure that it's I think it has to be hand in hand with bringing in businesses as well. So like if we build, say, like the Tuscan Village that's down in Salem, if we build something similar to that, we have the retail coming in, and we build on top of it, and we build outside of it. We kind of need that space to use that. I think that is the best approach. Where the Monitor is, they have that good parcel of land that they're talking about building. I don't know necessarily if building in those areas where there isn't a lot of housing right now.
Right. Very exciting proposal in the news recently that the mall would perhaps be redeveloped with housing and some retailers that are new to the area that are very well respected. You know, that brings up a collateral issue. There are a lot of developers who approach the city and go, I'll build all this housing if you put in the roads and the infrastructure. And Concord has a 50-year history, 50 plus, of saying, no, that's a developer's obligation. We're not going to have the taxpayers put in roads for you to build housing to make the profit off. Do you think the city's policy should stay like that we don't do roads for developers? And
I actually think that it should expand. I think that it should kind of go in two ways. If there's something that's existing, like I'm going to go back to the driveway, our plot of land, like the front of it, is 68 feet. In the city of Concord, you have to have driveways that are 40 feet apart. That really doesn't work for existing, houses that have been here for 60, 75, 80 years.
Right.
It doesn't work. But if it's a new construction, yes, it could work for that. I think that we need to kind of reevaluate where we are on the laws that are, or the zoning codes that we have now. And then for the newer ones, maybe work with them, because we want this, we need this. So I think it's more of giving a hand to each side.
taxpayer subsidy to build roads for private developers?
I don't know if that's the best.
Concord has never done that,
Yes.
but I think that's one of the issues that some developers pose, that, you know, in order for me to be able to afford to do all these housing units, I need the city to do that. Hard choices. Those are those TIF districts that you see that, frankly, rebuilt most of downtown and all of Horseshoe Pond, but it's a thorny and hard issue. But you're right when you talk about, and I can speak from experience, the whole code process. We have very good people in place, but it's a bureaucratic process, it seems like. If you're having to go through 9 different hearings for a driveway, you go, what's wrong with this picture?
Right.
Homelessness, a collateral issue. Housing, homelessness problem seems to be getting worse in Concord, but that's true statewide and nationally. What's your thinking there? We've got great groups working on this, but we don't seem to make that much of a dent.
Yes. And honestly, it's not something I know a ton about. I mean, I can see it, I read about it, but I don't know whether or not what the real issue is with the homeless. I don't know. There's so many aspects that people are homeless with. It's not just housing. Some people don't want the housing. Some people need other aspects. Some just need help for a month, 2 months. Some just don't want that help right now. And so I don't know if, I do believe it is an issue, but I don't have a lot of information on it, specifically what the needs are for them, and what, I haven't seen those. So I know the Coalition for Homeless does a lot of work. I just wish that maybe they could share some of that information that is needed. I know that the Friendly Kitchen does a great job, but sometimes I'm like, do they need food? Should I bring my extra food there? Should I be handing it out? Sometimes I'm just not sure what the next process is. So, and just as a person from, a regular citizen that just is out there, not running for office, a lot of us just don't know. And
do you think the city should have a bigger role? You know, there are all these different players, the Coalition, the Friends program, the Friendly Kitchen, Family Promise. There are all these different groups working on it, and the city plays a role too. Should the city be the quarterback, to use a season-appropriate analogy?
That's a great question. I don't know if they have the resources for it. I mean, I think the city's stretched pretty thin on trying to meet the demands that the citizens want here. I just don't know whether or not that's the best approach. I'm more than willing to put in, my 2 cents once I know what the needs are. And I love working with people and kind of generating that conversation. I just don't know what the needs are, really.
Yeah, it's one of those issues. There's some people who think, well, we're not doing enough. There's some people say, well, we're doing too much, and we attract more people. Hard questions, but a good point you make to make sure that as hard as these groups work, like the Concord Coalition, that maybe the average citizen doesn't really know the different dimensions. You're right, some people want housing, some want to stay away from everybody else, some have alcohol issues, some have drug issues, some have mental health issues, some have just bad streak of misfortune. How about tourism? Is tourism important to Concord? And if so, how should we promote it? Should the city be playing a role? And what kind of tourism could we have in Concord?
I mean, we have so much to offer here in the city. I mean, I think that a lot of the city is underutilized. We have, I don't know, 14 parks. We have 5 or 6 play and stay areas, which are like just basketball courts and playgrounds. We have just so much to offer, and it's just not publicized. Really, with the tourism, all of the stuff that we do, it's for the city of Concord. We don't really go outside. We don't publicize outside of New Hampshire for, hey, come to Concord. I don't see that a lot. I know that like other towns, I sometimes see like information about them. They kind of send out flyers, there's activities, but we don't really we publicize for the city of Concord so that everyone's aware of what's going on in Concord. I don't think we really do a great job of expanding outside of Concord. It's definitely not something I have here's the answer for, but it's something that I would definitely love to work towards, just to draw attention to Concord.
That we can promote more tourism.
Yeah, I mean, use our rivers more. I mean, having access to that, maybe making a commercial access to our river, kind of bringing in both that aspect.
Good thinking. And a related question, the backside of Concord presents itself as you go up and down the highway. Should the city take a role in changing that, or is it okay the way it is? And if you were going to change it and the city were going to play a role, what would you envision them doing?
So I kind of have a different view on it, because I know that we're going to do an expansion of I-93. Whether that comes into Concord in the next 5-10 years, it's in the plan. I mean, you can see it when you're coming up through the city or through the state that it is expanding. I think that that's kind of more on the state's aspect. When we expand it, we should be including greenways. We should be including more of when we do the expansion into Concord. I think the views should be different. And it's more on the design of how we expand into Concord than us changing stuff right now. I don't think it should be on the landlords, and I don't own any commercial property downtown or anything like that, but I don't think it should be on the landlord to hey, can you make your building really pretty now? And a lot of those buildings that we see are historical buildings, so really they can't do much with them. So I don't necessarily think it should be on the landlord and jazzing it up, but definitely when our expansion comes through in Concord, it should be more on that end of things, kind of promoting more signs for the downtown. Sometimes it's really difficult and it's not clear direction-wise for getting off 93 to where you want to go.
Yeah, we should have different colored signs, State House, come
Yes.
to downtown. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time. Good luck in your campaign. Your testimony about, or talking about how hard it is to get driveway permits, I think resonates with a fair number of people, that it's sometimes more challenging than it should be.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.